Hey, all you roadies. This is Michael Lardy from Great White.
This is Katrina.
What's happening, Roadies? This is Bruce Reiter, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, Roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. All right, what's happening, Roadies? Welcome back to episode 106 of Roadie Free Radio. My guest today is Mr. Bruce Reiter, front of house engineer for Fivefinger Death Punch. What's going on, guys? I'm coming at you from the barn. Oh, it's good to be here. It's getting a little chilly. The rain was just coming down this past weekend, man. God, just nasty stuff. Fall is here, which we all know means snow's around the corner. As you can hear, my voice is a little raspy again, a little deep-throated than it usually is, which means fall is here because my seasonal allergy situation is back. If you remember last year, I had a cough from basically October through almost into April, something ridiculous like that, it took that long to shake that thing. So let me tell you a little something here. We live in a very nice house. We're very fortunate. We're very blessed that this is the case. We have a nice house here in Connecticut. We got very lucky, and there's a lot of cool little amenities that we just lucked out when we bought the house that stayed in the house. I've got a built-in Melee coffee machine. And what else? It's all wired for sound throughout the house, speakers all over the place and everything. It's so awesome. One of the things they did was they built in our shower in the master bedroom, they put in a steam shower. Man, this has nothing to do. This has nothing to do with audio, but I just had to share this. They have a steam shower. This morning, for the first time in 3 years, I was like, you know what? I'm going to test out the steam shower and see if it can't help my congestion. Shake some of that out. So I took a 20-minute steam. It was unbelievable. I had that thing cranked up to 105 degrees. God, it was awesome. So I'm very chill this morning. It did help for a little bit with the chest thing and the ears and nose thing, but it's back now. So that's just the way it is. But man, steam showers and saunas, I love it. And all I could think was, you know what's going to be great in like dead middle of January, February, when that 8th snowstorm rolls in and I've been out there for 2 hours shoveling snow out of our driveway and our walkways, and I'm trying to get to the barn to get out another episode of Roadie Free Radio. You know what's going to be great? Heading back on inside and getting the old steam shower together. Oh my goodness. All right, guys, how are you this week? I hope you are doing well and that you've had a wonderful, productive week. I don't know if you caught this past week's Q&A that I did. I'm still searching for the answer as to this glue. What is the glue that you use on a vintage acoustic guitar? In this case, it is an old Gibson J45 ADJ that I have, and the pick guard has come off. My son Dakota knocked over the guitar, went down face first. This is like 2 months ago. I haven't even dealt with this yet. Thing went down face first, and the pick guard popped off. I think just because of the humidity, the age, blah blah blah. Everything dried out. Pick guard fell off. Okay, so what's the glue that I'm supposed to use? Do I need to do anything to the wood? Do I just slather down some glue and then put the pick guard back on? What's the situation? Somebody tell me. Someone out there, some guitar tech that's listening to this, please write me an email, info@roadiefreeradio.com. Let me know what I'm supposed to do with this thing. I appreciate that. And also, if you want your question asked on the video, Q&A video, Ask Uncle Millie, every week, Wednesday, Thursday it comes out. Again, info@roadiefreeradio.com, and we'll get you all answered up. Well, I'm trying to hit a couple of goals here, my friends. One of those is I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel by January 1st. 1,000 subscribers. I'm at like 168 right now. It's kind of pathetic, but you got to start somewhere. And trying to get that number up, 1,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel at this point, what you will find there, if you go there, are several of the interviews that we filmed. Steve Remote is on there. Who else we got? Pete Shapiro's on there. Lucy Barankova's is on there. A lot of good ones. And then some bunch of video content that I've done is all up there. So head over, subscribe. You can hit the little bell thing to get notified if you want to. If you don't want to get notified, you don't have to. I just need the subscribers, man. Help me out if you can. Help a guy out. And let's see, don't forget, I will be at AES. I've got, oh my God, the next few interviews coming up, you guys. Ho! They are fantastic. Fantastic. I just wrapped up a great one, which will be next week with Kim Watson from England. Monitor engineer, front of house engineer, systems tech. She was amazing. That's going to be a great interview, episode 107. But we've got some great ones coming up. I'm going to do at least two killer interviews while I'm in town at AES. So if you happen to be going to AES and you're hanging out, give me a shout. Let me know. Look for me on the floor. I'm going to be bopping around AES and over at NAB across the hall, checking out some film gear and some lights and all that good stuff. Give me a shout. I wants to see you. But none of that has anything to do with today's guest. As I said, front of house engineer for the last 8 years for Fivefinger Death Punch, Mr. Bruce Reiter. Good chat, man. Called up Bruce on the old Skype machine. He's hanging out in Atlanta on his back porch, getting a little break. They're down now for a little bit, getting ready for the next run of shows they got. And Bruce Reiter comes from the Dave Natal School of Mixing. And if you listened to Dave's interview several back, you will know what I mean. You will know what I mean. Anyway, Bruce Reiter's been around with Rancid, Limp Bizkit, Typo Negative, Powerman 500, 5000. I mean, the steam shower just really chilled me right out. Yeah, he's done a lot of awesome stuff. Great guy. And just good philosophies on things that I think you are going to enjoy. So I'm not going to delay this. Let's get to Mr. Bruce Reiter. I hope you guys are well. Keep in touch. Hit me up with your questions. info@roadiefreeradio.com. Don't forget, hit me up with some subs over at YouTube. All right, here we go. Push up them faders, kiddos. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Here comes Mr. Bruce Reiter.
Hit it. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
Bruce, enjoying the beautiful Atlanta sunshine.
Yeah, we're home for a couple of weeks before we start up rehearsals, and so I like to sit outside and enjoy the fresh air.
Because you ain't going to get a lot of it soon enough, right? It's going to be stinky buses.
Yeah.
Hang on one sec, man. There's a lot of steps to make this show pro, Bruce. I got to unplug phones and all that kind of stuff. So, dude, we're talking about Fivefinger Death Punch. You've been with them for almost 8 years now, just about 8 years, right?
Something like that. 2010 is when I started with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you guys are gearing up. How big a tour is this coming up?
It's an arena tour, so yeah, they're doing well. It's expected to be more sold out shows. We did a summer tour, just finished up, of amphitheaters and such, and that was really well attended.
Nice.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
You coming east?
We are all over the U.S.
Cool.
So, where are you based?
I'm up in Connecticut.
All right.
I'm in the northwest corner of Connecticut. So, like the Xfinity Center over in Hollywood, in Hartford, that's not far.
Okay.
And then the city, I try to get down to the city and catch a show or something,
And I think we played Jones Beach, which might be the closest that we would be to there this summer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good gig? Good show?
Yeah, it was an amazing show. The weather was pretty insane. We had a storm, so we had to evacuate the venue, and each band shortened their set, to by 3 or 4 songs or whatever, and we waited out the storm and played our show. That happened several times this summer. Actually, we were in North Carolina or South Carolina, one of the Carolinas, and
we
had a storm so bad that the the whole seated area in the amphitheater was like 4 feet underwater.
Wow.
You know, our subwoofers were, floating around, and, it was, but the show went on.
Really?
We evacuated the audience and, sent them to their cars or wherever. And, when it was safe, then we let everyone back in and had a show.
Is that one of the worst things that you've seen happen on tour?
As far as weather, I've been in some pretty scary weather experiences. I think in Austria, I don't recall the name of the festival, but all my fellow touring roadies will know the big festival in Austria, whatever that is.
Yeah.
There was a huge storm that came in, and in several languages on the IMAG system, and there was posted, please evacuate in an orderly fashion, and the audience just turned around and marched out like soldiers, and it was within just moments that it was went from like 70-some thousand people to empty.
Wow.
And then a line of police came just to secure the area or whatever, and there were probably 200 of them. And I was like, wow, where did all these police come from? We didn't see them hanging around. Yeah.
Sure.
But anyways, about 2 minutes after that, one of the most intense storms I've ever been in happened, and I was still at front of house. So
wow.
We just sort of held on, and stuff was blowing all over the place. Pieces of like the staging were flapping around.
Sure.
And it was pretty fun.
Right. Right. It breaks up the monotony of a good rock show, right?
It does. Yeah. Keeps it exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I know they do it a little differently in Europe, don't they?
They do. We've had 2 shows evacuate in Europe in the last couple of years. Rock 'em Ring was evacuated also. Fortunately, it was just after Fivefinger Death Punch's performance. So we got to play, but as soon as we played, the audience, we saw we didn't really know what was going on. So we load our gear out and went to catering, and to have dinner after the show. Yeah. And the whole audience was leaving, and we were like, me and the other crew guys were like, what's going on here? And we realized, there's a terrorist threat, and wow. They've evacuated the venue, which was Rock 'em Ring, which is a huge racetrack in Nürburgring, Germany. Okay. And they have a massive festival there every year that draws 70-some thousand people, or maybe more than that, probably. Yeah. And so anyways, the whole audience, again, with complete order and no chaos, evacuated, and that show was canceled. Unfortunately, Rammstein was the headlining band, so we did not get to see them play. But
do you like touring in Europe?
I love touring Europe. Yeah. The coffee and the bread.
that alone makes it good. Do you get out on days off, or do you still go out on days off and see the sights? Or at this point, I mean, looking at your resume, you've been around the world a few times easily.
I have been around the world a few times, and I have always made a practice to get out and see the world, meet people, go to places where local people go. Don't go to the chain restaurant, go to, some local restaurant, a record store, instead of going to the Guitar Center, go to the guitar shop that has, the local vintage guy or whatever, Yeah. So I love touring for that reason, really. Sure. Get out and see stuff. And I think it's important. It's funny, our guitar tech, who's, one of my touring buddies, he said before he toured with me, he never did anything day off other than order room service. He's like, I didn't know there was anything other than a hotel, a parking lot, and maybe a truck stop every now and then, and a venue, And, wow. And I was like, there's a whole world out there, So
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, you're getting to travel on someone else's dime, even though that dime may be more like a nickel, but you get to do it, and you might as well take advantage of it, right? What's one of your favorite cities out there? A couple of them.
Yeah, Tokyo is amazing.
Yeah.
There's just, it's a whole other world. There's so the culture is very interesting. It's so organized, and there's a lot of pride taken in being able to do your job well. You know, being skilled.
Yeah.
And so just everything is done well there. You know, so I love going to Tokyo. And you know, Moscow is a pretty amazing city to visit. We end up going there more and more. And Berlin is a fantastic city.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love going to Sydney, Australia.
Yep. Like 4 places I've not been. I've been to Europe a lot, but never made it to Germany. Haven't been to Moscow. Haven't made it to Asia, man. I'd love to go.
Asia is incredible. You know, I've been in, you know, Japan, Thailand, South Korea, Singapore, Indonesia, China, you know, like some pretty crazy places, you know, with all from rock and roll, you know?
Yeah, sure.
And like, I think it's pretty amazing, you know, going to Red Square, for example, on
Yeah.
a day off, you know, and seeing, you know, the whole history there from, you know, their emperors through the communist era, and now they're whatever capitalist communist era they have now.
Right.
You know, but yeah, it was really odd going there though, because the customs people at the airport, for example, they didn't let us take in the guitars because they said that they might be sold or something. I don't know. So we had to go to guitar stores in the local Beijing area, you know, and find some guitars that were suitable for the guys to play. And Adriano Sergio, who's one of the most fantastic guitar makers and guitar techs ever, he was our guitar tech at the time, and he, you know, tuned up the guitars and set up the, you know, made sure they were intonated well, and the band had a great show, you know. But it was one of those shows where technically nothing was right. It was a horrible PA system, a horrible stage, and you know, it just everything was wrong. But it was one of the most magical shows ever.
Wow.
Because it was so exciting. These kids at that time had not really had exposure to rock and roll.
Yeah.
So it was amazing to them.
Sure.
You know.
What's that?
And
Let's just hold right there for a second, and I want to ask this question, and I'm going to bring it back to what we were talking about before. But what's it like from your vantage point of front of house? How many people were at that show? Any recollection?
Oh, 500 or 600.
500 or 600. Shit, even smaller.
Yeah, tiny show.
Okay, so even more palpable.
Yeah.
What's
This
that
is a
like?
band that- oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, what's that like to be in your position in front of house, surrounded by 500 or 600 kids who've never witnessed something like this, that are just balls out having a great time?
It was amazing. You know, it was like a shoulder to shoulder packed room.
Yeah.
Full of excited people that were happy. You know, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
You know, being in a room full of happy people.
Right. Right.
You know? And you know, this is a band that plays, you know, their own shows in Europe are, you know, thousands of people come. You know, they have full massive production, and you know, so coming and doing it in an environment like that was sort of special anyways, because it's an odd experience. Normally we get all the, you know, toys we want, you know, to make our jobs easy, you know. And,
right. It's got to be nice too to bring a band like that almost back to their roots in a little bit, right? And play a smaller venue and whatnot. So then, really let's take that a little further. Some of these bigger festivals that you've done, just describe for me the experience of standing there with 70,000 people and your hands on the desk.
I'll tell you about the first one. It was fear. I was shaking. It was the Reading Festival, 1994, with Stabbing Westward.
Yeah,
and it was I other than being a kid as a spectator at Farm Aid, I'd never seen an audience that big, you know.
Yeah,
and it was Yamaha PM3000 mixing console, I believe, and you know, just your standard complement of festival effects and processors, you know, and half of which I wasn't very familiar with. you know, and we had a 30-minute set change while another band was playing. So I had to do this line check in headphones and just a lot of things thrown at me really quick that I was not experienced in or prepared for, you know.
Wow.
I'd never done it.
Yeah.
And, you know, at that time we didn't have the festivals that every band does nowadays, you know, all these, you know, louder than life festivals.
Sure.
And such, you know, so younger engineers didn't really get experience on the big PA systems.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So at any rate, I mixed the show and I'll, Big Mick was mixing another band, Big Mick Hughes, and
Yep.
they were called the Wild Hearts. And the systems engineers were rating the, you know, all the guest engineers. They had a little scoreboard, and that was really intimidating too, you know. And Mick, of course, he got a 10.
Right.
I got a 7 out of 10, which
Oh.
was very flattering, you know, to hear from these nice Englishmen who can be pretty sarcastic to a young American sound guy who doesn't really know what he's doing, you know.
Yeah.
But that was just very inspirational, you know, doing that festival. And from there, I really wanted to figure out how to make the festival experience for the audience as awesome as possible and as close to being with a band like in you know, where I come from, you know, garage bands or basement bands, you know,
Yeah.
like when I grew up, you know. So I want to feel the vibrations of the guitar amp the same way as when I'm standing in front of it in the basement with my buddy playing in his band or me playing or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And so learning how to bring that to the big festivals was you know, just the goal, you know.
Have you reached that goal?
I'm still trying, you know.
How do you do that? How do you do that? Bring some of that intimacy.
I think you have to close your eyes and just listen. Just close your eyes and listen and push a fader. Don't be scared to push a fader farther than you would if you had your eyes open looking at the fader. You know, just turn a knob. It doesn't, you know, people try to be a little bit too precise with things, and I think you have to be more emotional, you know, and just, you know, like when you close your eyes, what can't you hear? You know, what is not exciting? How can I make that exciting? You know, like, because, you know, everyone's got a killer kick drum sound or whatever, right? I mean, because, you know, when Howard Page, I think, coined the term lead kick drum syndrome or something like that. You know?
Yeah.
So to me, that's going to be my least important thing to focus on. I know I'm going to be able to get a killer kick drum sound, you know?
Yeah.
Like, how about the 11th tom, or in my case, I think we have 14 toms or something, you know?
Wow.
With Fivefinger Death Punch. We have a massive drum kit with Fivefinger Death Punch.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I'm sort of losing my train of thought here, I guess.
No, it's cool. We were talking about how to bring that intimacy to a large venue like that. And I think, you know, you sort of hit it in a way, even if it's just for you, you know, to close your eyes and feel it. And you know, that there's got to be something, I've got to think in my head, there's got to be something that translates, you know what I mean? Through your fingers and make it happen.
One thing that I'm not scared of is audience advice. Yeah, I think a lot of engineers get offended when some fan walks up and says, "Hey, I can't hear the vocal," or "Hey, the drums are too loud," or "Hey, the whatever it is they might say."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I try to figure out from their perspective, what do they mean by that? Sometimes there's a perfectly logical reason. They were standing in the wrong spot and there was just simply no PA to cover it or whatever.
Sure.
You know, and other times it's something that the engineer is doing, you know, and maybe it's something subtle, but, you know, if you're doing like one of these pro bands or whatever, you know, you're in the top percentage of engineers. So your mix is only going to get a couple percentage better or whatever. Yeah. I mean, you're striving for another 1%.
Right.
Whatever,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Oh, I got another 2% better in this mix. It's great. You know,
Yeah.
like it's not going to get night and day better.
Right.
You know, and if it is, you know, I would love to learn how. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of learning how, who are some of the folks ahead of you that helped you, mentored you, guys or gals that you looked up to?
I grew up in a town called Champaign-Urbana, Illinois,
Yep.
Twin Cities, college town. And there were a couple of really great engineers there. Gary Rogers and Doug Gurna were probably two of the most notable in my youth, because they, and I don't know, there were a lot of them, but they let me mix shows for them at a club when like the opening bands, when they would want to, Gary would want to go to the bar and hang out and bullshit with his friends while the opening band on Metal Monday is happening. So this kid Bruce, he'll do it, so I'd hang out and he taught me how to solder and how to use a voltmeter, and just how to do a changeover, how to write a patch sheet, and we have 7 bands with completely different setups, and there's 15 minutes between each band, and the owner of the club, Amy, is going to be really mad if you're late,
Right, go.
So, yeah, so and it has to sound good because the fans of the club have an expectation, because people like Doug Gurna and Gary Rogers were the engineers mixing the bands there that the audience was used to hearing.
Sure.
So, I think I was doing well, and Gary would come up and insult me and tell me that, it was one of the worst things he's ever heard, or I'm not God's gift to sound, or, something really mean, and there would always be some nugget of, truth or value in what he would say, though, about the deficiencies, and then, but once I started touring, people like Greg Price, I think, was probably a huge inspiration, and Mick Hughes, watching Mick Hughes mix. I was on a tour with a band called Rancid, and we did Lollapalooza in 1996, and they, Metallica was the headliner, and so that gave me an opportunity to watch Mick and how he tuned the PA, how he EQ'd channels, or how he balanced the guitars, how he pushed the faders during the show, just to make sure everything was a nice balance, and but I watched him. I hung out and shadowed him every single day of that tour, and learned so much that I took, and I think his biggest advice was just don't be afraid to turn it up,
Right.
It was,
Yeah.
and and I went through a phase of, I wasn't afraid to turn it up. It was really loud and sounded awesome, but it's fucking loud.
Yep.
And then I realized, I can get it to appear loud by making it sound clear if I just keep it quieter, and it'll be more comfortable. So pleasant and powerful is more what I'm looking for now, especially with a metal band.
Sure.
It's already aggressive music, so I think it needs to be softened up in a way with the mix,
Yeah.
and made to be comfortable, and I don't know, pleasant is the word that comes to mind, because when I'm at a show and I have to hold my ears or put my earplugs in, it's frustrating to me,
Yeah.
And if it's too harsh, or if the subs are just overpowering the mix, it makes the show not enjoyable, So that's, I guess, one thing that I'm really looking for, is making sure that it's pleasurable for everyone.
Sure.
And like bringing it back to the basement thing, it was always comfortable and pleasant. It was very loud, but it felt good.
Right.
Like the sound of a snare drum, that pressure, that you feel when you're standing 2 feet away from it is just, that's something that you want to recreate for the audience to get that intimacy.
Sure.
And the guitars and the drums and the vocals, I mean, it's a guitar band, but the audience really all they care about are the vocals. Can they hear the vocals, and can they hear the melody that they're familiar with? Other than that, they don't really give a shit what we do.
Right.
I mean,
right.
probably,
Yeah. And what about the band? I mean, obviously you've been with these guys for 8 years, so there's a great relationship there, and obviously a large amount of trust.
Yes.
But if you share something like, I want to make it pleasurable, or I want to soften it a bit, I mean, does that make an artist go, whoa, we're more of a rock band.
You have to be careful with the adjectives you use around an artist.
Yeah.
And I learned that when I was trying to find gigs when I was young. I used to open the CD booklets and you'd see the management and the record covers. Yeah, you'd see the management information or booking agent information in that, right?
Yeah.
And so I would call them or write them letters trying to get gigs, and I managed to get on the phone with the singer of a very well-known band from that. And I talked my way out of the gig by words that I used. I almost had the gig. Like, this rock star was going to hire some, 22-year-old kid.
That's crazy.
He didn't, because, I was talking about how I like to manipulate this and change that and, freak this and whatever, and I just used the wrong words. I would have done, I think, what he was envisioning. Right. But so talking to an artist, is a skill,
Yeah.
And with this band, we have, 5 members in this band that are very unique, strong personalities. And, you have to definitely navigate how you interact with them for longevity, because I'm friends with all of them, but I'm also their employee.
Sure.
And there has to be that line that's a definite line,
Yeah.
And if there's some business thing, they have to be able to tell me to fuck off, or I have to be able to tell them, and if it's a personal thing, has nothing to do with our business. This is between us as friends.
Right. Right.
But there's a time and a place to deal with both. And I can't, you can't be too friendly with the band, even though you are friends.
Well, it's got to be tough too, man. I mean, after 8 years of familiarity,
we've been through all the ups and downs.
Right. It's got to grow. And I'm sure there are times when, I don't know, for you, that a slip happens or you take something for granted, right, or whatever. I mean, you could see that happening.
Yeah, I definitely try to be careful with my words and interactions with anyone.
Yeah.
Not just the band, but,
sure.
With other crew guys or local venue people or whatever,
Yep. How long are you the oldest crew member?
I am.
Yeah.
I am. Our oldest in age is 65, 64 though, years old in age.
Wow.
We have a bunch of older gentlemen on our crew.
They will appreciate that terminology.
Glenn and Micro, I'm talking to you.
What positions do they sort of hold in the crew?
Glenn is our laser guy. Cool. And he's a really interesting person. He's got a wide range of experience, from some kind of physics, to being in the Air Force. He was in the British Air Force in the Falklands War, flying Harrier jets.
Wow.
Like this pretty crazy experiences.
Sure.
And Micro, the drum tech, he's one of the most fantastic drum techs I've worked with. He's tuning the drums for me as the front of house engineer is a make or break thing with how I get my drum sound.
Sure.
They have to be tuned well and they have to be tuned consistently. And Micro, this drum tech for Fivefinger Death Punch, just totally gets it, and he's able to repeat the good product. Some guys can they can get it. Oh, there, I got it perfect. It's great, but they can never repeat it at the next show. And he takes just a lot of time and care to make sure that the drums sound good and are tuned well in relation to each other. There's a lot of toms. There's like 10 toms and some gong drums and stuff like that, so there's not a lot of space for notes,
right?
with that many.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
That's amazing, man. So, all right, so let's jump back to, you grew up in Champaign.
Yep.
Big family, small family, family of musicians. What was going on?
No musicians in my family. I mean, my mom played guitar when I was a kid, just, strumming folk songs or something,
Yeah.
So there was always a guitar, an acoustic guitar from my earliest memories, and, they supported my like of music. My mom did, like I got my first records, I don't know, whatever year Destroyer and Queen News of the World, whatever year that came out, I guess 77 or something like that is when I got my first record.
Okay.
And it was Queen News of the World. Well, I got 3 records at the same time. I got Queen News of the World. I got Michael Jackson, Been There, and I got a Sesame Street record. And the Sesame Street record was full of these New York session musicians, like these funk players. It was amazing music.
Yeah.
And I would just play those 3 records over and over, just trying to figure out how did the singer of Queen get his voice to sound like that? How, like the song Sheer Heart Attack, for example, the guitars in that, like that was, to me, that was like aggressive punk rock. Like that was what was metal in a way to me as a kid.
Yeah.
So when I finally heard like Iron Maiden or something like that, when I was 13 or something, I was disappointed in a way because it wasn't heavy like like Queen. I thought Queen was heavy because of Sheer Heart Attack and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just gravitated away from that type of metal music for a while and like more just aggressive metal.
Yeah. Punk metal.
And and I've got a weakness for hair metal too. I love pop music, hair metal in general. I just love.
Yeah. So you were bitten early on.
Oh yeah.
And you started playing guitar?
Yeah. I started playing guitar when I was a little kid. I suck at it. I'm just I love playing. I play almost every day or whatever. But it's a hobby, and I realized it was a great hobby. When I was, in the around 18, 19 years old, and as a sound guy, I'd make like $50 to $100 doing a gig, and then as a guitar player, I'd pay like $20 or $30 to do the gig.
Right.
Yep. So I was like, well, I can still do gigs and be a sound guy. And, so I play my guitar, and just basement garage bands, nothing special at all. Just
sure.
fun stuff, but from doing that, I found out about the local clubs, and there were 3 or 4 places that had music for a under 18-year-old in our city, which was pretty amazing. It was a place called the Thornburn Center, which is like a community center. Okay. And they would bring all the punk bands from California or New York, or whatever, who would come to the Thornburn Center, and then, we had a place called the Blind Pig, which half of it was a bar where you had to be 21, and half of it was a club where you could be a kid, and the stage was sort of visible from both areas.
Yep.
So you could, go see music there. So I would always go, and whenever I would hear a band playing, like my mother went to college throughout most of my childhood, and so we lived on campuses a lot, and on campuses there's always shows.
Right.
And so I would, hear a show, and I'd go look, and what's this noise? And I'd see somebody like, another one of my local, heroes who turned into a touring engineer, Jay Lipschutz. He does a bunch of country stuff, like he does Ricky Skaggs and stuff like that, But he would be setting up a PA in the quad at the U of I, and I'd go and, hey, can I help carry this heavy thing or whatever,
Yeah.
And I'd stand over him and just watch what he did and tried to figure it out, and
Yeah.
but I think that the love of music is necessary for this industry. Like I come across some people every now and then, my colleagues that are like they hate music. They're in it purely for the money, and it's a job, just like going to the working at Publix as a grocery bagger or a forklift driver or whatever. It's a job, which it is a job, of course.
Sure,
you got to pay rent, whatever, or mortgage or whatever it is you pay. But it's I think that you have to love music,
absolutely,
to do this, and it gives you a lot of freedom that you don't have in other industries. We're off from December to July coming up in 2019, and I'm gonna spend time with my wife and cats, and go to the park and sit here in this chair.
Right. Sit right there.
Yeah, drink my coffee and look at the clouds go by.
Because I've thought about that. What if you didn't like the music of Fivefinger Death Punch? What if you just didn't like the music?
I wouldn't be working with them then. Period. Yeah.
Has that happened to you in your career where you're like, I hate these fucking songs. The guys are nice, but I just hate this music.
Well, actually, it did happen one time, and it was a band that I was given an opportunity to double dip with. Like when you're on tour, like and the opening band asks you to mix them or something. So they pay you a little bitty wage to, and this. I gave them a listen. I'm not going to say their name because they're really nice people, but I gave them a listen, and I just could not stomach the music.
Yeah.
And there's no way that I can sit through that. And a lot of people might like Fivefinger Death Punch.
Right.
I think they're catchy, and have good melodies and, killer guitar riffs and amazing drums, and Ivan as a singer, he's like one of the most talented, untrained singers I've ever encountered. He doesn't know anything about music theory, and he's 100% art, nothing to do with theory.
Right.
Right. He doesn't know that he's singing a note or whatever. He doesn't know that he's doing a fifth to the third on the guitar or whatever.
Yeah.
Sound like an idiot, probably talking about music theory here, but
it's all good, man. Well, that's interesting. Because I got to imagine that, there are, like you said, there's several folks, many people out there that are mixing for bands that like, I don't like country. Why am I, I'm just here to get a paycheck or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever genre. And I guess you got to work. But for you, you've been with this band a long time. I don't know what their deal with you is, but it sounded like you're going to take December to July off and not sweat it. Are you going to do any pickup gigs anywhere?
No, if something interesting comes along, like, for example, a few years ago, an interesting gig came along that was 32 days of touring with Danzig.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went out and mixed Danzig, and it was fun.
Yeah.
There's just the stars were aligned to do that, and I had mixed Typo Negative previously, and the band guys for Danzig are the same guys as the band guys for Typo Negative, so it was a familiarity there of just some beautiful people to work with.
Sure.
And I'm not looking. What I look for are long-term gigs. Like I am always looking for whatever I perceive as a long-term gig. Like when I started working with Static X, I was on tour with a band called Slayer when I met them, and I decided, that Static X was a better opportunity long-term for me. They may not have been a bigger band or whatever, but for me, they were a better opportunity. And, I worked with them for 10 years, which, I went from, I went into RV sleeping in a bed with the lead singer in an RV, you know, and that lasted for 3 weeks. And it was known, fortunately, that there was an end in sight to that, because when they did the Ozfest '99 tour, which was their first big tour, they got a bus. You know, and so we did the 3 weeks of these tiny little clubs. Like, I'm talking taverns.
Wow.
You know? And it was incredible, because I hadn't done that for many years at that point, you know. So, you know, I had to figure out how to make these little toy PAs work, and you know, hung out with this really awesome band as they were, you know, gaining popularity, and you know, everywhere they went, you know, people loved them, you know, and I like that vibe of the audience really being into the band. There's an energy in the room when the audience is legit into the band, instead of it being, you know, just because it's what's in the media right now, and it's what, you know, whatever media is shoving down your throat, you know? Right, of course. Like, I want when fans really love it, you know? And I've been fortunate with bands that I've worked with. If you take like Limp Bizkit, you know, during that first record time, it was amazing. You know, that was so exciting. Yeah. And like, experiencing firsts with people are awesome. Like, you know, the singer of Stabbing Westward, you know, he went on to do so many amazing things. He and the bass player. But the first time we saw the Grand Canyon sunset was together. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you experience firsts on tour, you know, and through life with these people. You know?
Well, that's a great point. I mean, it's not just about the music. It's not just about, hey, the gigs are getting bigger and the bus is getting bigger, right? And all that kind of stuff. But you're right. It is like, wow, we're all leaving our little hometown together for the first time, or we're going to this place for the first time. And that's a very cool part of it. I mean, and from your vantage point, it's got to be pretty cool too, because while you're not part of the band, but you are part of the band, you're not part of the band. So you kind of have a little separation to watch these guys and gals go through something. Mm-hmm. You know, you have a little bit, a different perspective.
I watched the Fivefinger Death Punch guys go from being normal working class musicians to being multimillionaires. You know, their lives have changed. Yeah. You know, and it's amazing to watch. Yeah. Like, it's cool, you know. And these guys work really hard. Like, you know, people I don't think people give credit really for how much effort bands put in and musicians put in, you know. Yeah. Like, a lot of touring people, I think, are a little jaded, and they think it's more about them in a way than the band, you know. And it's just like the sacrifice that artists, that musicians make is incredible. And then without those sacrifices, there's nothing for us roadies, you know, to do. There's nothing for touring people to do. Without these people giving up their lives. Right. You know? Right. And, you know, like that time that I have off, you know, the band, they're going to have a couple weeks here and there off, right? They're going to go on some fancy vacations or whatever. But even while they're on that fancy vacation, they're going to be, you know, doing conference calls and you know, business deals to make sure that they have enough money to take us on tour to pay me my wage to do this thing, you know? Yeah. Your ridiculous wage. Oh, yeah. It's better than some and worse than others. Right. Good answer. Good answer. You've been around, haven't you? Yeah. That's awesome, man. Are they based out of Atlanta? No, the band are from Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Very cool, man. So now did you have formal training? Did you go to, you know, Musicians Institute or anything like that? You just learned on the road, learned in the clubs.
Yeah, I have no formal training other than, like, I consider formal training when I was probably 1987, Husker Du played at a band at a club called Mabel's, right? Mm-hmm. And I was grounded. Okay, I was in, and my mother, we lived in a small town called Ivesdale that was 30 miles outside of Champaign, Urbana at that time. Okay, my mother had business in town, So she said, you can come and you can go to the arcade and whatever. You got 1 hour, right? I said, killer. I'm going to the arcade for an hour. So I went and I saw this marquee, Mabel's Nightclub, Husker Du. It's like, I'm there. And I saw this guy at the door, and this van pulled up at the same time. And I'm a big guy, you know. I haven't grown much since I was a teenager. You know, I was strong as shit then.
Yeah.
I carried, you know, Bob Mould. I carried both of his Marshall cabinets up these stairs in one go. You know, just grabbed them by the handle and went up. You know.
Yeah.
And the local club guy was like, "Hey, I got another job for you. You know, show up at this field at 7 a.m. on Saturday." You know, and you know, it's at the corner of whatever and whatever. I said, okay. And so I showed up there, and I met this guy that gave me an opportunity to be a stagehand in a union arena as a non-union kid. Okay, and I'm working at the Assembly Hall in Champaign, Illinois, and I'm doing all the biggest shows. So I'm hanging out with Dave Nattell or whatever as a teenager, asking him, you know, like, what's this do, or why'd you do that, or you know, whatever, you know. Yeah. And just watching him mix, you know, and like I saw him mix like Richard Marx, I saw him mix Yes, I saw him mix. I mean, so many bands.
Yeah, it's crazy
because he was one of those engineers that was like coming through every couple months with another artist.
Sure.
You know,
it's funny. He was on the show.
Yeah, I listened to it, of course.
Yeah, and he and I just came across his resume. I print out everybody's resume, so I have it in front of me. Anyway, I just came across it the other day, and it was like 3 pages of the small, like 12, type 12 font, and just fucking filled with bands and artists. Like, God Almighty, this guy's worked his ass off.
Yeah, I remember him being really humble too, because like during when he was mixing the Yes Union show. That was, I guess, all the musicians that had ever been in Yes on one revolving stage. Okay.
Right.
And he had 2 of those Claire Brothers folding 32 channel consoles. That were, and, so I'm just like following him around like a puppy dog that day, trying to learn and watch or whatever. And I managed to get on the show call. So I was able to sit out there and observe. And the singer said to him, "Engineer, turn the subwoofers down." And he immediately turned the subs down. He didn't like, a lot of people who get flustered by it or offended. You don't understand, or I'm experiencing this. He just made the adjustment to make the artist happy and went on about his life. You know what I mean by that? Like some people get so personally offended when the artist gives an opinion about something, but it's like, we're here to serve the artist's vision and opinion. Right. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
But
what else did you learn from him? It's funny, dude, because there's similarities. Now that you say that he was in your orbit there early on, it's like, as I listen back, or I think about what we talked about earlier in the first half an hour of this interview, in terms of the experience and feeling this stuff. I mean, I think a lot of his shit rubbed off on you.
One of the biggest things I learned from him, I was working here when I moved to Atlanta in 94-ish. 94, well, we'll call it 94.
Yeah.
I worked for a couple of local audio companies, and one of them was Seriously Sound Incorporated. And I was sent out to do this gig to bring Stacks and Racks to the Hard Rock Cafe for the Bush concert, right? Bush was doing a surprise performance there. And Dave Nattell was the engineer. And I just, as usual, he was cool, hung out and he shared stories or whatever. But watching him do his line check was incredible, because he didn't spend more than a couple seconds on each channel. He turned it till the gain meter, turned the gain till the meter went to there. Boom. All right. EQ it. Does it sound good? Yes. Don't, if it doesn't sound good, don't fuck with it. If it sounds good, EQ it. All right, turn that knob more. All right, there, sounds great. All right, next. Just on. And that speed is something that I definitely stole from him, because it makes just getting that template and the organization of the mix and the basics together real quick. It makes it so much easier just to blend the music,
Sure.
And so speed and just not dwelling on anything, not dwelling on it.
Yeah. Well, because imagine with all the toys and the bells and whistles and effects and all that shit, you can start to overthink it. Maybe I better pull this thing in, right? Maybe I better turn that shit up, sweeten it up over here, do whatever. Whereas if you just get the mix, then you can adjust from there once you get going, right?
Yeah, totally. I'm sort of an in-between era engineer in that I experienced the tail end of the 70s, 80s gear and people and experience and methods, and then definitely lived through the 80s on the club scene, local scene, and then through the 90s and on the major whatever scene. And there's just I still treat my digital console and digital processing equipment the same as I would analog gear. I have a 48 channel Midas console that has 8 returns. That's how I think of it. Right? I have an effects rack that has 5 effects in it.
Yeah.
And I have just the same basics that I would always have had. I always would have had some kind of fancy compressor on my vocal. If it was a sibilant singer, some kind of de-esser, and that's all I would have had on the vocal.
Sure.
And an EQ,
Yeah.
But why? So this chain of effects or whatever that people use now, I just don't. I'm not interested in. I've heard some good mixes with it, but I've heard better mixes without it, I think.
Yeah.
And just I think maybe using less equipment leads to a little bit of the intimacy. Also, because it's not changed too much from reality.
Right.
You're just letting the instruments and the vocals be what they are. I mean, you're shaping, like a guitar that might be a little bit harsh or bright or whatever. You're going to tone back the high end or whatever. When you work with a metal band, you're going to add click to the kick drum or what.
Yeah.
But even with a metal band, you don't need to add that much click to tom toms. They have a lot of click. You just need to mic them right.
Right.
But I don't know.
What are your mics of choice on drums?
I'm Shure microphones, and I've tried other microphones. At various one-off festivals and a couple fly things we've had to do here and there, and every single time it's like nope. And every now and then I'll put up some mics and I'll A/B them, just with and without EQ, and just I love Shure Beta 98 amps are what I'm using now. I'm all the toms and cymbals and Shure Beta 56As on the snares, and we trigger the kicks.
Yeah.
So I use a Alesis HR16 for the sound, and I process the shit out of that to make it sound somewhere between a drum machine and a natural bass drum.
Yep.
Trying to go for the Pantera type of aggression on the drums with this band, because that's what the drummer, that's sort of his vision of what he wants to sound like. When he was a kid going to see Pantera in concert, he's like, their drums sound so crushing, So I'm like, well, Static X did a bunch of tours with Pantera. Limp Bizkit did, shows with Pantera and stuff. So I remember how they sounded, and they sounded insane, crushing most of the time.
Yeah. How about? As I say, sorry, I keep going on the mics there. What do you use on guitar cabs?
No mics. We had a pretty grand experiment at this last round of rehearsals. I use Palmer PDI-09s.
Okay.
That's my solution to capturing guitars. We did try a variety of mics at rehearsals, and the band and I both agreed that the bleed through was the pleasant tone that you got was outweighed by the bleed through. So they sounded like I used a Shure ribbon mic and a 57 and a 421. Yeah. Amazing combination of mics. We experimented with all kinds of positions and when it was just the guitar player alone playing, it was just phenomenal.
Sure.
But then when you add the whole band, the monitors, and the audience, and it sucked. Yeah. And the band were like, "What's that noise in my ears?" Well,
Right.
that's your monitors bleeding into the mics. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah, Palmer PDI 09s. And I'm doing a new thing with Zoltan's rigs. Traditionally, they were both mono rigs, and Jason Hook added a left, center, right system. So he has 3 cabinets.
Jesus.
The center cabinet is just pretty much guitar. It has all the effects and stuff on it, except for the delays and some of the harmonies. And then any of like the wide effects or, and just tone are come out of the outside 2 cabinets.
Yeah.
So to keep up with that, I had to figure out a way to make Zoltan's guitar stereo. And I just took another channel and another Palmer PDI 09 on the same signal, and it's completely in phase in time without any adjustments, and it gives me my ability to pan them. So I pan them hard, and then to place them in the mix where I want them left or right, I use the fader.
Gotcha.
Faders.
To
place them. And that sounded. I think that gave me an extra 5% over the last tour cycle on the guitar sound that I'm getting with this band, actually, which is a huge jump. Yeah.
Wow. And vocal mics?
Beta 58As. Ivan Greening is an emotional, physical singer who sweats. He's violent with the equipment, and he has a dynamic range that is insane. He can sing so loud. Mm-hmm. Beta 58 is the only mic I've had not fail on him, and I've tried at least 3 of the major brands, popular mics on him.
Yeah.
And the background guys, we use Beta 58A, and for Chris Cale, who sings most of the background vocals, we use he has 2 mics, one on either side of the stage, and I'm trying to remember the model. It's Shure 55 or something. It's the Elvis looking.
Oh yeah, the 55 or 55S. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're remarkably nice.
Yeah.
Like I was a little apprehensive when he said, "Hey, I want to use this mic." He sent me a picture of one. And I was like, okay, let's see how it sounds. And of course, you don't shoot down the idea. You say, "Hey, let's test it out."
Right.
Yep. And we tested it out, and there's no negligible. I mean, there's a little bit more bleed through the off access tone. If he's not right on the mic, it's not as good.
Yep.
Like you have to be right in front of it.
Yep.
And right square to it for it to sound like it's supposed to sound.
Yeah.
So as long as you submit to that, it's great when you get off access and whatever. So he's pretty good at being right on it, though.
Yeah. I had a 56, one of those that I bought. I just sold it about 2 weeks ago. I just put it up on eBay and it went, and I used it in the studio instead of my RE20. And I found the same thing. I'd have to be like right dead center on that thing, or if I was off a little bit, didn't quite sound right. Then I went back to this guy.
The RE20 is great because the proximity effect is pretty much non-existent with that mic. I mean, not non-existent, but it's like really reduced.
Yeah. It's a good solid mic. I've tried a bunch of things, and I talk about it on the show. I did this. I got the Telefunken M82. I just could not get my hands around that thing at all. It's really a kick drum mic.
Yeah. So you say kick drum mic. Interestingly, that's a pet peeve of mine. Oh. When people label a mic as it's for a specific thing, all of the transducers pick up any vibration, literally.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they market it as a kick drum mic that they're trying to get the broadcast world to get around.
Yeah.
So they sent me one to try out because I use the M80s when I go, do interviews in person and whatnot, and I love them. So I tried the M82, man. I just couldn't it's got to be like 85% out of the box for me, if not 90%. I'm just not technically I mean. Right. I screw around on my board, I mean, like, even on this thing, I've got like a little low, a touch of mid, a little bit more high up there just to, do, but that's it. Like, I don't have time to get in here and like really start fucking around with things. So that's what was happening with that M82. I was just like trying to tweak it and make it sound like this. And I was like, well, why don't I just go back to this or go back to the Elvis mic? And then I was, it's a whole thing, man. Anyway.
Well, that's a great broadcaster choice, Mike.
It's
awesome.
Always
interesting to me, though, how the iPhone mic actually sounds decent.
Just not bad.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because you see all these interviews with, like on the news or whatever, and you got some reporter with this, and you got the person in the studio with $1,000 whatever.
Yeah.
They sound very similar.
Yep. Exactly. I do want to try the SM7 in here.
That's a great mic too. And again, because it's dynamic.
Yeah.
It's not gonna it's going to be more pleasant on the top end. I think you're not going to have the clarity that you're looking for with the condenser mics and vocals. Like you want that sound.
Yeah.
Like you don't want that when you're talking.
Right.
You want that to go away.
Right. Exactly. All right. A couple more questions for you. How long have you been married?
I have been married since 2000. So that's 18 years.
18 years, man.
We've been together since 1992.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Good for you. How have you kept that shit together?
I try not to be an asshole. When I am an asshole, I try to stop.
Is she within earshot right now?
She is not in earshot as far as I know. Door shut. Yeah. No, I mean when we're apart, I call every day.
Yep.
FaceTime. Now that we have this technology, it's much easier. In the 90s, it was a lot more difficult because I had a bag of quarters or I had a Sprint phone card. You had to, imagine being out in Germany in some small town in Germany, and you have to go figure out this T-Mobile calling card, and the operator, everything's in German. It's before everything. It's just back then nothing was translated. You didn't,
right?
So you had to have a bag of quarters, and it'd be raining or winter or hot or whatever. It'd just be life.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot harder back then. And but I made the effort, every day or at least every couple of days back then, to call and communicate and listen,
Sure.
And just my wife has been very supportive of everything I do. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah.
Is she in the industry too or no?
No, she's a accountant. She's a senior auditor for the Government Accountability Office. So
whoa.
So
she can do your taxes for you.
She actually, it's sort of funny because we have this accountant that we use to do our taxes who does half of the hip hop world in Atlanta. Okay. So probably very qualified. Well, my wife, it's frustrating because she knows more than most accountants and stuff. So it's hard to go to anybody.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I know, because for you guys, for touring people, it's really hard, right? Because you're getting taxed on every state you work in.
Yes, we are. But it's not that hard, honestly. They take a negligible amount of money out.
Right.
And the ones where it's like they take $18 or $7, wherever, you just don't file. And the California, Wisconsin, New York, places like that. I'm not a tax accountant. Do not take this as any kind of
listen up, folks.
But you make sure that in California and Wisconsin and your home state and in New York, make sure that you're clear and good to go and do whatever is required there. But outside of that, if they're taking $7 or whatever, let that money go. They're not gonna. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And Team Tours is actually helping us comply with the laws that everyone is breaking. We need to vote and change those laws if we don't like them, not just disregard them, or say, well, my da-da-da goes on a business trip and he doesn't have to. Well, he's actually breaking the law. So I did a lot of research. I was really frustrated with having to have that portion of my income taken away from Team Tours without fully understanding what they were doing and why they were doing it.
Yeah.
So I took hours out of my life.
Wow.
And I learned, and you can go to their website and from there you can find the resources that you need to understand exactly why they're doing what they're doing.
Sure.
And the laws that back up what they're doing,
Yeah.
Like a lot of people say, hey, oh, I have an LLC. I don't have to do that. You're incorrect. You still have to do that. You're not going to get caught. Like your probability of any consequence is super low.
Yeah.
But you're still required to do it.
Sure.
You know.
Wow. Do you, when you're off, let's say like in this next big break coming up, and throughout your tenure in this industry, do you do a lot to educate yourself? Keep trying to learn new things and whatnot, or are you one of those guys that's just like whatever? Because you don't seem like the latter. You seem like the former. You seem like a guy who's learning.
I'm always reading. I'm looking at YouTube videos. Every console that's out. I download the offline editor, and if I haven't had a chance to touch the physical thing, I've at least gone through the offline editor and tweaked around with it and looked at all the videos about it. I think it's a responsibility to know learning how to learn is more important than knowing each piece of equipment. Right? Like I know most pieces of equipment, right?
Yeah.
Now I've never mixed a show on an Avid SL or S6L, right? But I know it.
Right.
I could call somebody on the phone and tell you how to set it up and do whatever. Yeah,
you could do it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's a responsibility that you should have a general knowledge of all of the equipment that you might come across.
Yep.
Nobody can see air quotes on recordings, can they?
Nope.
Might come across.
Yep. That's cool, man. How do you take care of yourself out on the road?
I practice martial art called Tai Chi Chuan. And so I do that. And we have on the tour what we call the Death Punch Dojo. And there's several of us that practice various martial arts over the years. And it goes through phases of we do it every day or we do it once a tour, or,
Sure.
From over the years, here. But, we do, jujitsu. Our security guard, he's a he's very high level black belt.
He's a
jiu-jitsu
badass
practitioner and very skilled. One of the most skilled martial artists I've ever encountered. Actually, it's really incredible. But he's willing to teach us anything. So we practice with him. And most of the stuff I do with him is geared around my Tai Chi Chuan practice, but he works with the other guys like Zoltan, the guitar player, does judo. He's a black belt in judo and I think he's a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which for anyone not familiar is pretty skilled level.
Yeah. Wow, man.
Yeah. So we try to do that, stay fit. I go on days off, I go for walks. I might walk, 20,000 steps on a day off.
Yeah.
To just see the sights or whatever. So I think that's important.
Yep.
And on show days, especially at these festivals and stuff, it's incredible how far you walk from day to day. The buses are parked in lot D, catering's a mile that way, the stage is over here, the equipment truck's over there. The air-conditioned room's way over there.
Right, out of reach.
Yeah.
Wow, man, very cool. All right, let's end on this one. Well, actually, I got two more. Roadie or engineer?
I personally prefer sound mixer.
Okay.
I don't even know that I'm qualified to call myself an engineer because I couldn't read you a flowchart on a schematic for a Soundcraft 500 console and tell you which capacitor I should use or not.
Okay.
So I might be, even though I use the word engineer, I might be hesitant to say that.
Yeah.
But I feel confident calling myself a sound mixer.
Okay. But not a roadie.
I'm not offended by it.
Yeah.
But that's not the first term that I use.
Yeah.
Roadie, but Roadie is like it makes me think of a pirate, and that sort of I think is in a way what touring people are.
Yes, exactly. All right, Bruce, if you could go back to that kid who I think was maybe 18, 19, who was grounded, who went into the city with your mom, and you had 1 hour to go to the arcade, and you walked by that marquee. If you could go back and pass that kid on the street and impart some wisdom to him, what would it be?
Never exaggerate about what you've done. And always learn. Always continue to learn. Like you cannot exhaust the available knowledge about whatever subject. I mean, any subject, whatever you do. If you're a janitor, I mean, there's a lot to learn about the chemical compounds of the whatever that removes vomit from the floor. You know what I mean? Or which chemical is better to use when, there's vomit so that we don't have to smell it. I mean, there's no matter what you do, you can be an expert at it.
Yep.
So
yep.
Yeah. So I would say never exaggerate what you know, and always learn. Which I mean, I've practiced both of those things, with the exception of the first. I exaggerated what I knew once, and it got me in trouble. When I was working for Seriously Sound as a whatever, in 94, however old I was then, I didn't have much experience tying in power, even though I had mixed massive shows as the front of house engineer.
Yep.
But they sent me out and said, hey, you know how to tie in power? It's like, sure, I know how to tie in power. Well, I tied in the neutral to hot and blew everything up. And I learned a whole lot about equipment repair and fuses and such that day.
Sure.
And I got, ridiculed by everyone at the company and nicknamed Sparky. And, so... that was an important lesson. Don't exaggerate. If you don't know something, say you don't know it. Because if I had said to, Doc was the man, rest in peace, Doc. He was a great engineer himself. But if I had said, hey, Doc, I don't know how to tie in, will you show me? He would have shown me everything there is to know about tying in power, and he would let me practice probably.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you don't know something, ask, I think is probably a life lesson that I learned.
Nice.
And I use that to this day.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome, man. Bruce, this has been fucking fantastic.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks, Larry.
You bet, man.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to check out the Fivefinger Schedule and see if you guys are coming anywhere near Connecticut or New York. Oh, you're on there right now. Look at you.
Yeah. I got the old master tour pulled up here.
Nice.
Do you tour at all?
I don't, but listen, if you got a dead bunk, man, I'll go out with you for a couple days. I'm happy to come out.
Master tour is a new phenomenon. Right?
I know. I heard it's amazing.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Right.
Now, we used to have the Book of Lies, paper itineraries.
Yeah.
You made them you printed them a week before the tour. You compiled the information a month before the tour. It's all wrong.
Right.
Now we can update it in real time.
Yeah.
But the data entry on it is so cumbersome. But for the touring, for the crew guys, it's great.
Yeah.
All the information's there, but my God, using it.
Right.
I'm the production manager as well.
Yeah.
But fortunately, our tour manager does most of the data entry now.
No, I've heard it's an awesome app. I actually wanted to want to download it myself. But just to keep tabs and keep track of people and whatnot. But no, I do not tour, man.
Albany, New York, I think, is the closest we are to your
wow, that's it?
neck of the woods. Or Portland, Maine. Albany, New York, Portland, Maine, Huntington, West Virginia. That's everything else is way far away.
All right. Yeah, Portland. I got family up in Portland. But that's far.
Yeah, this is our indoor stay out of the wind and snow.
That's right. That's right. Cool stuff, man. Bruce, I really appreciate this. I'll be in touch, dude. You bet, man. All right, Bruce, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. Guys, stay tuned next week for episode 107. We've got systems tech Kim Watson coming on the show. Great interview, great time. You can follow us in the meantime at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and Spotify. All is Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com. send me a note because you know I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. Don't forget to check out that YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. And in the meantime, my friends, y'all be safe out there.